for the purpose of describing this particular legislation, I'd like to yield such time as he may consume to the author of the bill, Mr. Kelly.
The gentleman is recognized.
I'd like to thank the Chairman and Mr. Speaker. H.R. 1026, as has been described, this actually had come before Congress before. Dr. Bustani and Mr. Roscom had presented this. This is about taxpayer knowledge of IRS investigations. Now, this would make sense to almost everybody to understand what exactly has been going on. And under 6103E in the tax code, it's a felony to disclose or to compromise people's tax information and give it to other groups to work with. Now, we shouldn't have to pass laws like this, but unfortunately, laws are not made and governments are not run by angels, but they're run. We have to have oversight over what has happened. This piece of legislation gives the same rights to those people whose information has been violated, whose information has been compromised, as it is given to IRS personnel. We found out 2 years ago, and Dr. John Eastman really made the point of it for the National Organization of Marriage, their tax information on the people, their members, was given out, and it went to Human Rights Campaign. Now, you would think by the name of that it makes sense. Human Rights Campaign, those are good people. But you cannot divulge private tax information to anybody else. It is a felony to do that. But 6103 also prevented those whose tax information was divulged. They couldn't get information on it. They weren't allowed to even inquire and weren't allowed to be informed of what was taking place. Did it in fact take place? Well, we knew it took place because it was out in the public. Secondly, who was it that divulged it? Well, we don't know. We can't talk to you about that because that's protected under the tax code. Well, is there an investigation? Can't tell you that either because that's protected. Can't tell you who it was that divulged it, who they divulged it to. Is there an investigation or is there not an investigation? And at the end of it, was there proof found that this was actually done? And if so, what's the penalty for it? Those are basic tenets of what we are as Americans. And so I submit to people, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue, as we know. Mr. Lewis is a good friend of mine. It's American tenets. It is what we firmly believe as Americans. Nobody should be able to do that to us. And if they do that to us, we should be able to inquire about the status of that. This piece of legislation gives every single taxpayer the same rights as those doing the investigation, those doing the leaks and the findings. Now, if we are to restore the American people's confidence in our form of government, this is essential. We can't allow these things to happen and then say, well, you know, we could have helped you except for one thing in the tax code 6103E. And what's going to happen? Those people are going to look at us and have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Say, well, we really can't let you know what happened. So if it really is an American principle, and if we really do need to have faith and trust and feel that we are all being treated the same way and in an honest way, and if that's the only way to restore the confidence that the people need to have and the trust they have in our form of government and those of us who they've sent to represent them, then this type of legislation has to take place. So I am so proud of what our Ways and Means Committee is doing today under Chairman Ryan and under Mr. Roscom. What are we doing? We're protecting taxpayers and taxpayers' rights. This is so fundamentally American. This shouldn't be anything you even have to stop and think about. So what we are proposing today is under 1026 that the taxpayers have the same information and the same knowledge of what's going on with their accounts. What's been divulged, who divulged it, is there an ongoing investigation, what were the findings of that investigation, and who's being held responsible, and more importantly than that, who's being held accountable. These are felonies. And until we get to the point where the American people have faith and trust in us again and restore their confidence, we have nothing. In America's House, we as members have got to make sure that every single day we safeguard the rights of every single American. Unfortunately, this has not taken place in the past, and we have to move forward with it. I do know that today being April 15th is a day that most people dread. Listen, tax revenues are necessary. We need to have an agency to collect them. But by the same token, when it turns out that those people in that agency, and not all of them, but we have some people in there that are violating individuals' rights, then we have to come forward and we have to champion legislation that people who voted us into office and sent us to defend them. With that, I yield back.
This is a simple, common sense bill. Taxpayers have a right to know if their tax return information has been compromised. I want to thank my friend, the gentleman from Pennsylvania, and my Republican colleagues, the ranking member of the subcommittee, and the chairman for bringing this bill to the floor today.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
I agree with everything my colleagues have said. I think for Americans to look at what's going on in their house, America's house today, and to understand that we do understand the difference between right and wrong. We also understand that sometimes absolute power corrupts absolutely. We started years ago looking into this. We still don't have all the answers, and I would just tell some of our fellow citizens that we're not done yet because we do know things have happened. But I think what the chairman has expressed and what Mr. Roscom has expressed is the outrage that we feel, because it's not only our responsibility, it is our duty to protect every single one of America's citizens. And to divulge the information that was divulged and to do it in such a way to use the law, to break the law, makes absolutely no sense to any of us. And this isn't really about either side of the aisle. This is about all of us together doing what's right for the American people. This should reconfirm to the American people that we are here acting in their best interest and defending them every single day that we sit in session and that we sit in office. So with that, I would yield back my time. I thank the chairman and Mr. Roscom. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I yield back.